prominent buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, probably by people who try to sound intellectual in the way they critique media, is plot armor. Now, in my opinion, plot armor is obviously an overused word for things that people really don't understand. Plot armor is something that leads to plot-induced stupidity, and what this is completely ripping apart the foundations of how this universe and the concepts, or even the characters in general, how their abilities or ideology or whatever, how these things work in order to progress the plot further. It doesn't really make sense. It's like seeing Flash lose a race against a sloth. It's like, we know in universe, this is how the Speed Force works. It's the embodiment of motion itself. Why is it losing to Sid the Sloth? Ice Age was 20 years ago. We don't have to keep this up. The glaze needs to end. But a lot of people see plot armor as events not working out in the favor that it should on paper. They completely disregard the fact that a lot of variables go into this. Not every character is going to be fighting at full power. A lot of times, they're just trying to talk, right? The reason why Flash doesn't speed blitz everybody, including the rogues who are normal villains, is because they can be talked to and there's no reason to. Why would he? He's one of the most compassionate characters there is. Why would he have to do that in the first place? Or Superman not completely one-shotting somebody, even in the new Superman movie, which is pretty good by the way, if you want my 2 cents on it, but even that, you could see the moments when he locks in and when he doesn't. He's not trying to crash out on people. He's just trying to do the right thing, saving lives and making sure that the enemies he's fighting aren't dying. He knows when to hold back and he knows exactly what he needs to do. His X-ray vision is literally a good capacitor on somebody's threat level, their power level, what he needs to do to get through their armor or to knock them out. When it comes to street level characters, not everything they do is plot armor. You have to remember, peak human in a superhero setting is much different than peak human in a normal setting. If we look at some of the strongest men on Earth, like Novikov, like Stoltman, like even, what's brother's name? Bjornsson, I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce it. If we look at their lift record, it is in the 1,000-pound area, which is what Batman does. But then we look at the fact that he's also one of the fastest men on the planet as well in terms of normal humans. And you can see that's not really possible. In real life, you have to pick your field. You can't really be a jack of all trades, but when it comes to any sort of piece of fiction, if you're a normal human and you're training and doing all of these martial arts skills, in a lot of these universes, whether it's video games or comics or movies, they become literally superhuman by all forms and standards, kicking down trees, punching metal robots until they break. A lot of this happens in fiction. It's not uncommon to see human characters become superhuman through years of training, walking on molten rocks. It's something that's very much acclimated into the martial arts genre, right? Especially when you have a lot of the masters that take it up a notch. If it comes to Daredevil, I could say that he has plot armor just by blocking multiple bullets or even ricocheting bullets with his billy club. He technically shouldn't be able to block 6, 7, 8 bullets all at once, but his perception abilities and being able to kind of precog where it's supposed to be and being able to react to it all like that is superhuman, but it's within their skill set. It's not plot armor, it's just who they are and who they have established themselves to be. But I will acknowledge that there is a lot of egregious moments that really make you think, how is this even possible? This is completely outside their capabilities. I've seen thousands of respect threads seeing what these characters can do, and yes, while a lot of them can be outside of the normal human bag, you're not going to see Schmo down the street do it. Once you see a lot of them tango with gods with bare hands, mind you, not even prep, that's when you know we've gone too far. So without further ado, let's get into some of the worst plot armor moments of all time, and in the end, I'm going to do a little bit of a treat and talk about some of my favorite plot armor moments because it fits the narrative. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. He is one of my favorite villains in just all of comics. I was going to say DC, but he's such an interesting character just to analyze and to see out in the field. I know a lot of people, their main thing about him, why they like Slade, is the cool factor, right? How he's very much that guy in a fight. But if we look at his character, while he might be very cool from a fighting perspective, if you look within, he is very pathetic, right? You do not want to be anything like Slade Wilson, and what makes him very fascinating is that, or for me at least, because I like a lot of characters who are just a train wreck to watch. Daredevil and Green Arrow on their worst days, or somebody even like Moon Knight or Batman. The reason why people like these characters is because when they're flawed, they are flawed, very much so, but they come back and they learn from their mistakes. Deathstroke, what makes him really cool is that he is a villain, so he doesn't learn from anything. he just keeps going, and as a reader, we just want to see how much further he is going to push it. Nothing about this is moral, but as a book, when we read Deathstroke in either guest appearances or even in his own solo by somebody like Christopher Priest, I love seeing villains do evil stuff. I made a whole video on this, how villains should be evil. They shouldn't have to like dull them down so that they could be more marketable. Let them be evil. And Deathstroke, when he's written well, which he has in recent years, he is a menace to society. But what I want to talk about is the identity crisis effect. The problem with it, while as a book, a lot of people find it very controversial because of the stuff with Dr. Light, I think it's a very weird anomaly because I think it's written very well, but the ideas itself within the book are so crazy and weird and just maybe didn't need to happen that a lot of people just turn it down and they don't want to talk about it ever again. Rightfully so, I think, but I am not an identity crisis hater because one of the biggest strengths of this book is that it made a lot of the superhuman community feel very much lived in and human. It felt like Civil War kinda, but like better written dialogue between characters. And here we see the JLA coming together in their darkest moment to defeat Deathstroke, who is protecting a amnesiac Dr. Light. And I'm gonna go through his systematic breakdown of the Justice League, and I'm gonna tell you what I find to be a problem with it. Let me know down below if you think this is egregious or not. If Deathstroke should be allowed to solo an entire squad based on prep, but let's see. So, the first person who steps up to the plate, as you might expect, is the guy with ADHD, kinda. Mostly Impulse has that, but Wally is too. So Wally just tries to blitz him, but not really, because Flash never goes full speed, as I've said before, and he shoots off explosives. He says C5 plastique on manual switch, one in the front, one on his right, one on his left. So as you might expect, that creates a cone around him where Flash has to run around. And he's like, well, he could only come from here. That's the one opening, right? Wally just goes around them. So he places his sword underneath his armpit and he runs straight into the blade. That is what he was counting on. He may not be able to outrun Wally, it says, but he's quicker where it counts. New costume, same old mistakes. And while that is a fire line, he should not even be able to do that. If I was Wally, I would just phase through the explosions or just wait for the bomb to stop. Or even just like, I don't know, spin my hand and create a tornado and just throw him back into the house and fight him in there. That is what I would do, but I guess we aren't all fast thinkers, ironically enough. And here we have a situation where he speed blitzes Zatanna, right? He's like, take out the most powerful first, because of course, she can do anything. And he does kind of like a dig directly under her ribcage. Any second, she will vomit, right? He's like, she can turn your blood to fire with a spell, but only if she could utter the words. That's not true now, but that was true back in the 2000s, so I will give him this play. The next person to fight is Hawkman, and he just jumps up and cuts his harness here to his wings and makes him fall down. That is the most sorry thing ever. That should not happen to Hawkman. That is crazy. Me personally, I would not let that slide, but you know what? Fair enough. I don't think that should knock him out. I don't even know if it did. He did yell here, but fair enough. Then he goes after Green Arrow. Cuts all of his arrows here, makes sense. He wasn't aiming for the head. It kind of makes sense. The Dinah here, he just speed blitzes her, puts a bag over her head, and just chokes her out. Very quickly, he has superhuman senses, reflexes, speed, and strength. That should be very easy for him to do. So you know what? I'll let that slide. The next person he takes out because of his enhanced senses is the Atom, who got taken out by a literal red dot, a laser pointer. He says just because you go microscopic doesn't mean you can't forget protons and electrons still have mass. So this man was getting beaten up basically by a laser fire hose, and that caused him to instinctively turn big, and that actually is what led to Hawkman getting knocked out, which he is a superhuman kinda because of the nth metal. That should not be a thing unless it's very much tied to the wings at this point, which I don't know. And then he fights somebody who is considerably one of the strongest people on the JLA, and that is Kyle Rayner. And what he does, he catches his fist, because for some reason Kyle wanted to box him, a trademark with him honestly, and then he just breaks his fingers. It's like, are we for real? I know it says here that Slade's the legs, like it starts like trembling and shaking, because he knows it's a gamble. This is one fight that he doesn't know if he could win. Everything that he said, which was actually Green Arrow, I forgot to say this, but Green Arrow was kind of monologuing everything that was happening here. And he's like, the Green Lantern ring, that is a weapon of the mind. I just have to do mind games. If I break his hand, he's gonna, what is this? I've never had this happen to me while wearing this ring. And a willpower source equal or almost equal to yours, along with that strength, could have a counteracting effect. On top of that, it did break his concentration, so I guess I see all of the rationale and all of the layered steps they went through to show why Deathstroke could do this, but in my opinion, he should not be built like that. Kyle Rayner at this point in time was at his strongest as a Green Lantern, not even being like an Ion and being possessed by the willpower entity. This is based Kyle Rayner in his strongest form. This is after Obsidian Age. He knows his power, he knows his strength. You can see by the suit here, he is in his veteran mode. He should not have been taken down this easily. Most of the Justice League that weren't humans by physicality should have mopped the floor with this guy, but for some reason, Deathstroke in this comic was allowed to build up his bag, get everything that he needed to bump up his aura. And you know what? Fair enough, but that just shouldn't be happening. Next character is the Red Hood. Now, the thing about Jason Todd that makes this very interesting is that he's known, if I'm going to give this a bit of a, not really an analogy, but whatever. If I'm going to compare him to like the TMNT, which is very easy and good to do with the Bat family and the Robins, they're pretty much the same archetype accidentally. But either way, Red Hood is kind of like Raphael, and the reason why is not because they just are the most angry out of all of them, but they're also the strongest physically. They know how to throw down and they fight dirty. So these two moments, it didn't give me any shock that there was going to be some really interesting strength-based feats for Red Hood. But both of them are so outrageous and just stupid that it had me scratching my head a little bit thinking, yeah, this is the new 52 alright. So here in Red Hood and the Outlaws, both of these examples happen. So the first one, which is really crazy, and to give a little bit of a context, Red Hood at this time was using Venom. Venom, as you guys know, is what Bane uses to get strong, and in some continuities, to get smarter. It only raises your strength to like maybe 10, 15, at most 20 tons. So why am I seeing Red Hood deck Lobo in the back of his head and make him drop down to his knees? Mind you, he was scrapping with Starfire and beating her up pretty badly. So the fact that I see Red Hood doing this to a Superman level threat, who's as strong and if not stronger when he's completely going into his Toon Force Bull, why is this happening? Red Hood, we talk about Batman plot armor. What is this man Red Hood doing? The people will be hating on Batman for plot armor. Look at this man right here. Yes, he has Venom. Venom doesn't make you a 100+ tonner, I'm telling you. If that was the case, Gotham would be cleaned in 10 seconds. The second situation, which is also on Venom, is when Supergirl was holding his arm, right? And they were having a bit of a scuffle. And he managed to break out of the grip of a Kryptonian. 100,000+ tons, by the way, on base. That's what a Kryptonian could do. And some even argue that Supergirl is stronger than Superman. I don't subscribe to that, but it's a possible statement, and in some continuities, it is true. So how is Red Hood doing this so effortlessly? He is, look at this man trying to, why are you trying to farm aura? I could see the nose of your helmet. You are not cool. Let me stop. But the funny thing about this is that we can't even argue and say that Supergirl was expecting a human strength, so that's why she put that much pressure. Because right here, look at this text box. She's like this, Jason, you have to tell me, how are you doing these things? No human is that strong, at least no normal human. So she was putting enough force to at least hold back a superhuman, and she still got shocked. He pulled that right under her nose even though she was prepped. And we talk about Batman. Can you guys just get off Batgirl? I'm going to talk about him in a second, but still, this is crazier. Not really. The feat I'm about to say for Batman might actually be worse, but he should not be like this. I'm pretty sure he survived a nuke underwater. Yeah, he did. In the same run. I literally have a comic excerpt in my head right now. I'm going to download that thing like the Matrix straight onto your screen, but like, yeah, it's underwater, but it's still a giant bomb that you survived with base equipment. How are we doing this? Should I even question it? I don't know. You know what? Let me just cycle on to the Marvel characters real quick. And let's start with Black Panther, the King of Wakanda, T'Challa, one of my favorite characters. But even so, we gotta talk about the plot armor. One of T'Challa's most impressive feats, which probably shouldn't have happened, is when he actually got the surprise on Silver Surfer and put him in this sort of headlock. And he was like, I'm wagering that your physique is as humanoid as it appears, right? And if that's the case, you're not going to be able to break this hold, despite your vastly superior strength, which is, in my opinion, from looking at it, there's no reason why his 100,000 ton plus strength should not be able to break out of this. That's the first case. The second case, why is this man saying unhand me? I know a lot of people are like, he let him put him in an arm lock so that he could get information out of Black Panther because he wanted to hear what he wanted to say. But saying unhand me like that with that face, you can't fake that. This man was not faking, he was actually going through it. And it led to him having to be saved by another herald. But in general here, if we look at the entire list of power cosmic, the abilities that it gives you, you will see that he has so many counters to prevent this from happening, even if we don't wager on the strength that is quote-unquote irrelevant in this case. It's so funny because he's only humanoid by appearance. He has no bones or muscles. It's literally pure power cosmic. It's the equivalent of seeing Captain America put Ultron in a headlock in Age of Ultron. It doesn't make any sense. Why do it in the first place? But it's more egregious because Silver Surfer has way more tools at his disposal to prevent all of this from happening. So let's go down the list. Number 1, he has cosmic awareness, and if you don't know what that is basically cosmic spidey sense. He should have known right as he was coming with the board that he was going to do something crazy, and he had a plan in his head. There's no way that you would let somebody go full force at you with your board and let them jump behind you. That's not happening. The second thing, all of his senses, his vision, his hearing, his smell, all of that is enhanced. Third, he has time perception. He can perceive the past, the present, and the future at once. And he can project this effect for others to see as well. And while it's not always completely going to be accurate, that was a simple move. This man was going at him straight with his surfboard. There's only a couple options that could happen with his limited set of abilities. Fourth, he can teleport. Fifth, he can decrease his size to get out of it. 6th, he's intangible. 7th, he can manipulate gravity to get him out of there. 8th, by some stupid situation where it's not possible, he can astral project himself and possess Black Panther to get him out, and maybe even to like hurt himself or something to knock him out. 8th, 9th, I'm not counting well today, guys, go easy on me, but like whatever number I'm at. He can matter manipulate. He can rearrange the molecules of his suit so that he will get off of him. And he'll be like, oh my goodness, this is probably a bad idea to stay on top of him for this long. Even further, he can raise his temperature to the point where it burns hotter than a supernova. What more could he want? He can turn a tropical island into a frozen wasteland. He can change temperatures to be way below 0 for 24 hours and keep this up for a long period of time. And lastly, if I'm gonna like throw everything out the window, he has telekinesis. What's stopping him from just throwing him off of him? Black Panther, there's no way. I would not even believe you if you said something about having training from Tibetan monks. This is how unbelievable this is. The strength part, if we're gonna throw that out of the window, there are so many other options for him to get out of this. There's no reason for him to be struggling like this. My boy, you should not be on your knees. And by the way, this is on home turf. Home advantage. Imagine we're playing a sports game. He is on his surfboard. What is stopping him from using that surfboard so that he doesn't breathe for a little bit, just to make him unconscious, not to kill him? I have never seen a man with so many options and he refused to use any of them. And the fact that he wanted him to talk as well, that he said that afterwards after he got saved, is crazy. If you wanted him to talk, you could do a lot of things. You have telepathy. You could read his mind. You have emotion manipulation. You could influence people to do certain things and say certain things. This entire thing is complete and utter nonsense, and this is the problem with making characters really powerful and not reading up on their abilities. Because the thing about this is that I really do like this run. It's by one of my favorite writers of all time, Dwayne McDuffie. God rest his soul, he's one of my favorites. He did a great job on DC and overall just superhero animation. He is one of the legends, top 5 in my opinion, in terms of creators in the superhero genre. And this Fantastic Four run that he was a part of is really good and underrated. But sometimes you gotta realize that not everything is going to be perfect, and there is going to be some stinkers in otherwise pretty good runs. And this is one of those circumstances. I'm not gonna let anybody else tell me different. This was a doozy. Speaking of Heralds of Galactus, let's talk about this one really weird moment with Spider-Man fighting against Firelord. If you don't know, Firelord is another Herald, and instead of being more of the power cosmic, I'm going to use my energy blast type of character like Silver Surfer, he more so uses stellar fire, which is in effect cosmic flames, as his name might suggest. And in this moment, while it's a very good breakdown of Spider-Man, who he is as a character, and why he never gives up even in the face of extreme adversity, because most characters would just run away and try to bring themselves back to a state of equilibrium, get their thoughts in order, so they can retaliate with more information and more backup to fight somebody on this power level, right? That is the normal thing to do. But Spidey over here, he's built a bit different, a little plot armory, some might say. He locks in. Look at this, man. I've never seen Spider-Man create this many after images. How many? I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 to 10 after images, including the one here. There's like 10 or 11 Spider-Men? Is this man trying out to be the Flash? What is he doing here? I'm gonna go into this little monologue by the narrator here. He's like this. Desperate, on the verge of panic, Spider-Man explodes into action, raining blow after high-impact blow on Firelord. All the while, his uncanny spider sense and his incredible reflexes keep him just beyond the former Herald's reach. Which, yeah, he might not have been a full Herald, but he still had a lot of power. You may be bigger and far more powerful, but that's just not good enough, mister. You'll never stop me, no matter how strong you are. I'll keep on coming back. Keep fighting until, I don't know why I sound like Charlie, until I find a way to beat you, to win. And he is decking this man in this black suit. I won't give up, you hear me? I won't. So much so, Captain America had to put his hand on his shoulder and be like, you don't have to give up, son, you already won, chill. We don't want to catch a body from Galactus, okay? He's like, Captain America, the Avengers. Boy, it's about time. What kept you guys? Gee golly gee. 80s writing. I like the 80s. There was no shade in that statement, by the way. I love reading 80s comics, but the fact that Spider-Man here was able to throw hands with somebody on the same level, if not maybe a little teensy bit below, than the Silver Surfer just because of his willpower. While that might be a moment where a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, Spider-Man and his unbreakable will, you can still have that. But make sure that he doesn't do all of this by himself, because it's going to look really weird when he gets hit upside the head with a baseball bat and he's now unconscious by goon number 3. You know what I'm talking about? Because if we're going to look at his stats from the power grid, intelligence 4, which is pretty good. I'm pretty sure that's similar to Peter Parker. Peter might be a bit smarter. Strength 5, speed 7, durability 6, energy projection 6, fighting skills 3. So having all of that, putting all of that in account, he shouldn't have been speed blitzed, he should have been durable enough to hold all those punches, and he should have been able to explode into a ball of energy to get him off at the very minimum. He has cosmic energy, enough so that the only thing that can withstand it is true adamantium or proto-adamantium substances like Captain America's shield. Proto-adamantium, of course, being a concoction of vibranium, adamantium, and a steel alloy, I'm pretty sure. But on top of that, he has flight. Then how he flies, by the way, is that he uses the gravitational field of stars to help him break his speed. This man is light speed. On top of that, you have to remember his durability isn't just durability. His body automatically incinerates most projectiles it reaches before the surface touches his skin. Spider-Man should have been burning his hands off just by punching him. It should be even worse because he's throwing full-on punches. You know when he accidentally caught a body in Spider-Man vs. Wolverine? That's the level of ferocity and strength he is displaying in this scene. Do you remember when he fought Kingpin in Rikers? In my last video I talked about it. He was only doing 4 or 5 after images. This man was going at it. If he was actually fighting a normal metahuman, he might have killed them 10 times over. This should have played out the same way it did when he fought Superman in that crossover in the 70s, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna try to pull it up now. Superman vs. Spider-Man. Okay, I found it. It's like this. How do you get so hard all of a sudden? Which is crazy to say. Pause. Is this a trick or what? He punches him multiple times. He's like, you're gonna tell me where Mary Jane is or I'll tear you apart. Okay, Spider Buddy. And he breaks both of his wrists. And he's like, oh boy. I'm kinda cooked, aren't I? And Superman, he was going to punch this man. He's like, okay, he seems kind of strong. But he's like, wait, I have to pull my punch and I hope it's in time. Because if he didn't, he would have taken Spider-Man's head clean off. The punch was stopped, but the wind blast, the shockwave of him stopping his fist, the friction that must have had with the surrounding environment, I'm pretty sure just knocked him out. That is what should have happened. Maybe even worse because Firelord doesn't have any code of ethics. But for some reason in this comic, the writers thought it was good to have him get away with boxing with a Herald of Galactus. A guy who is meant to scout out planets for somebody to eat. You have to remember, he's planetary as well. Firelord could blow up planets with the snap of his fingers. But somehow he's getting rocked by Spidey. Okay, whatever you say. Batman, the plot armor demon himself, as a character, he is synonymous with the idea of plot armor. Now, while there is an abundance of these moments, it's important to realize that a lot of them are actually just hate. This might sound like cope. If you take a moment to think about it, most of them are not actually plot armor. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. Then we're going to go into a very goofy moment, then into moments that are, without a question of a doubt, plot armor. So the first one, let's talk about Darkseid. When he was at Apocalypse and he said, forswear Kara Zor-El, because in this moment in time, he took over Kara's mind and she was his puppet. And he was like, I reprogrammed all the Hellspores because I'm a genius, and if you don't want Apocalypse to blow up and be nothing, a speck of dust, you will take her out of your control. And while Darkseid was throwing him around and not actually trying to kill him because he reprogrammed it, mind you, why would you want to kill the guy who literally has new access codes to turn your entire planet into Infinity War dust? You don't want that. And if people are saying that is plot armor, you have to realize Batman is in the top 3, at minimum, top 5 smartest men on the planet. If Lex Luthor could do it, if Mr. Terrific could do it, Batman definitely can as well. Another moment was when he was hit by the Omega Sanction in Final Crisis. A lot of people are like, yo, how did Batman survive? He shouldn't have survived that. Nobody ever survives. He is the cash cow of DC. They must have not wanted him to die. Yeah, duh, dummy. You have to remember, he's like, this is the Omega Sanction. Can you outrun the death that is life? In his monologue, he's telling us, the reader, that he wasn't going to die, that it was his plan to send him back in time. And you're like, why would he ever do that? Well, fair listener, instead of being aggressive and actually reading the book, you would realize it was always his plan to make him go throughout time, and if he actually managed to go his way to the present, the hyper adapter will be on his tail. Every single era that he made his way through, the hyper adapter, this giant alien, would be following him, and if he made his way to the present, it would blow up. In effect, it was his own cosmic suicide bomber. Not only would it kill all of the street level heroes, not only was there a chance for it to do real damage to the heavy hitters, but look at the surrounding landscape. It would destroy a huge population of civilians, if not the entire planet. This was his one Hail Mary if he defeated, his final laugh. None of it was plot armor, it was just good plot. I love Grant Morrison's Batman, and yes, while Bat God as a term should be used, when written well, it's one of the most entertaining things you will ever see. And the final moment that I want to talk about is his fight with the Justice League in Batman Endgame by Scott Snyder. Now, it's important to realize, once you're under the Joker toxin, you are a far weaker version than you normally are. Yes, the killer instinct might be awakened within you, but that doesn't mean that you're at full power. In fact, they're too busy monologuing most of the time to actually finish Batman, and then he calls up Fenrir, which is obviously known as the Justice Buster, and he throws hands with the Justice League. And it was one by one, it wasn't all together. If they actually jumped Batman even at this weakened state, he would have been cooked. But one moment that really caught my eye was when he said that he spent like billions, if not trillions, on this AI computer to track the Flash at his lowest speed and spray this frictionless coating on the ground so that he would trip up and, I don't know, sending him flying through the air into a brick wall, just completely knocking him out. But it's key to realize he said Flash at his lowest speed, at his cruising speed. So Flash trying to kill Batman under Joker toxin was at cruising speed. This man wasn't going light speed. This man was going probably as fast as the fastest car. None of that was out of Batman's control. He knew that if they were tampered with, they wouldn't be at 100%, and he could work with that, and he did. How are you going to be mad at a player using all the tools at his disposal to beat the people trying to kill him? None of that makes sense, but the funny moment, this is so goofy, this had me laughing, because yes, it's kind of plot armor, but at the same time, not really, and that is when he kicked the Spectre in the face. If you look at it, he decked him, drop kick in the face. Look at him, his speech bubble says, yuck. And look at his face, he looks in pain, and that is what I would say if this wasn't the face of an actor. Look what he said. Batman here, he was bamboozled, he was flabbergasted, he's like on the table here like, I didn't actually think I could hit you. I thought it would make you feel better. You cannot stop me. What do you hope to achieve? Which is actually kind of funny. Why is this man acting so that he would feel better? If you know Batman, if you're in a conflict with him, he is stubborn. He is not going to stop until he dies. If both of you guys have an altercation, even if he knows he's going to die, even if he knows he's going to be a body on a t-shirt, he's not going to stop. You might as well kill him. Why are you trying to make him feel better? What purpose is there to make him feel better in general? If he was acting, this man's Spectre is goofy as hell. If he wasn't, that face is pretty convincing, but what he could have done is lower his durability to a human level so that Batman could kick him. And while this is possible, you have to remember the fact that this is a size-altered Spectre. He's the size of a small building at this point. Even if he reduced himself to a human, his foot is the square footage of like a small part of your cheek. It shouldn't leave a dent, it shouldn't even knock you back. That face is completely unnecessary unless you're trying to win an Oscar. That's just my take. It seems like Batman actually decked him in the face, but as a writer, even if Batman was my favorite character, I would never do this because it just makes Batman look bad. But as Stanley once said, the winner is only who the writer wants to win. Stan couldn't have been more based, and that is what kind of happened in this take. Granted, as I've said before, Bruce was completely stunned. It could go half and half, so no matter which way you take it, both of it can be partially right. One moment that could be true or not, but I don't know because I haven't read it, was when he fought the Justice League bare hands. I don't know if there was some sort of context where it's like they lost their powers, but he was straight up beefing with them and actually winning. I don't know how that's even possible in the slightest. Even if they didn't have powers, a lot of them are at least competent at fighting, and if they jumped him, he would lose. But then again, Batman had all of his toys, his gadgets, and everything he needed to secure that W. So if this is in fact true, as a Batman superfan, I cannot support it. Nothing can be said. I have to know when to back down because I cannot, for the life of me, rationalize Batman throwing hands with the League and winning. I would never in a million years believe that's possible, but we've seen it. It's right in front of our face. If you guys know of any other subtext, let us know in the comments down below. But if there is none, it's not looking too good for you guys. I'm sure whoever wrote that, you never had a writing job ever in the history of your life after the fact by DC. I will promise you, cross my fingers, that is the case. Watch me research this in post-production and realize it was Jonathan Hickman. That would be the funniest thing ever. Quite possibly one of the funniest things you could read is Catwoman under the penmanship of Tom King. Now, the first moment was Talia and Catwoman fighting in the desert, and they were fighting with swords similar to Batman fighting Ra's al Ghul in the sand under Denny O'Neil. One of the most iconic moments in Batman history, mainly because it is the first introduction of the Al Ghul family in comics to begin with. But in this fight between Talia and Selina, they have this kind of back and forth about who is the right partner for Batman. Do you really believe yourself to be equal to the Dark Knight detective? Selina, are you really worth it? And while all of this discussion back and forth is happening, we figure out that Selina is fighting on par with Talia, and she only picked up a sword once or twice in her life. And she's like, how impressive is that? Yeah, that's quite impressive, but that's also kind of crazy. There's no way you're beating Talia and literally disarming her in the first, like, I don't know, 30-40 seconds of the fight here. On top of that, what's really crazy is that after everything is said and done, and they finished their discussion, Talia completely blindsides Selina and kicks her once she's completely distracted, right? She is on the ground here, and she's like, you fought well. Maybe after I kill you, I will do as the demon does and put you in the pit. Maybe I'll resurrect you. Maybe you'll scream once your flesh stretches and there's blood in your mouth with a bitter and wet taste. Maybe you'll look upon the demon and lick your lip. And while all of this is happening, Selina's like, yeah, well, I've got 9 lives, and managed to catch the blade as it was going to her face. Says, without blinking, I am not wasting any of these lives on you. Kicks her to the face, to the ground, and literally stabs her in the back, asking if she minds to hold her sword. The level of disrespect is uncanny. She is screaming her lungs out. And you have to remember, years prior in Batman Incorporated, Batman and Talia, they were fighting on equal footing. And yes, I do know Selina is well trained, but she is not Talia or Bruce Wayne level in the slightest. Tom King just decided to tweak and make his favorite character win the battle, all so that it made sense within his marriage storyline, even though they didn't even end up marrying in the end. And the second moment, which is really funny that everybody brings up, was when the speedsters, or even a bunch of heroes in general, were under Poison Ivy's mind control, right? Under her pheromones. All of them had to do her bidding. And Barry Allen, Wally West, and Wallace West, Flash, and Kid Flash, all of them went to fight against Batman. And this was so funny because she ended up doing the 1, 2, 3 combo on all of them. One hit and knocked out every single speedster there. I don't know, Tom King, Catwoman at her strongest shouldn't be able to solo 3 speedsters at their weakest. I might be crazy, feel free to call me out, but she's stunning on them, bro. Look at the pose that she does in the end. Is she Black Widow? Scarlet, come get your copyright. This should not be fair. Honestly, I should bleach my eyes out. None of this should be possible or even published in an official DC comic. Speaking of goofy, this moment, honestly, I don't even know if I should talk about it because it's literally something I'll never see in my life ever again because it is so damaging to the eyes. Similar to the Catwoman situation, it's when Kingpin completely bullied Dr. Doom. And look at this man shooting all of his blasts, and he's like this: if you are really as powerful as you claim, I'd already be destroyed. Which is crazy logic. Then Doom punches him in the face, and then he aura farms on Doom. The guy who aura farms on celestial beings, he is putting his knee down to him. He's like, but here I still stand, while you try to run. Never make a man kneel before you unless you're sure you can keep him down. And he's like, you'll pay dearly for this, Fisk. You have my word. And he's like, who cares about the word of a dead man? I've never seen this man so confident in my life. If he was pulling up like this, Daredevil should be a prior memory. He shouldn't even be a part of the cultural zeitgeist because he should have died a long time ago. Spider-Man himself should be put on a t-shirt if we're going to take the scaling at all seriously. And the funniest thing about it is that this is really recent. Like, I don't remember the year it came out in, but just looking at the art, you know this was some modern day stuff. And a writer seriously wrote this down thinking that he cooked. Doom, he does not care in the slightest about Kingpin. He does not respect him and would rather shoot this man off the face of the map if he could. His suit is a mixture of science and magic. This one blast should have made him a stick figure. You know that weird meta moment in Animal Man when he put his hand out and he turned his enemies into literal drawings in inverse of before and after? He turned those guys back in time so that they were literally sketches. That is what should have happened to Kingpin. But the plot armor was way too strong. He wasn't giving up, and Doom was trying his hardest. None of that, both of those factors, didn't waver the outcome of this battle. It was just a horrible situation. Doom, I know you are salty about this. And Doom continuously takes L's too. I remember Venom recently getting a 1-up on Doom, but for him at the very least, Venom was becoming a universal, maybe even a multiversal threat. At that point in time, the Clintar was on one, that's why nobody commented on this. This, on the other hand, if I was going to put it in perspective, imagine Bob the Hydra agent punching Oblivion in the face. Imagine Iceman beating Oblivion, the end of all creation, literally the void, an abstract cosmic entity that predates the multiverse. While Doom isn't that compared to Kingpin, he most definitely is. That entire hallucination of Iceman beating Oblivion, apply that to this, make it real, and make 50 comic fans look at it with a straight face. I'm telling you, you will have an entire theater laughing in contempt. This moment could not be made more goofy. This is a plot armor moment that is so stupid that you can't even be mad at it. And in my opinion, those are the best ones. Now, it takes a lot for me to usually get angry at a comic book. For the most part, I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to anything that kind of ruins a character. But when something ruins multiple characters, that's when I'm gonna get a little heated. And this is what happens in Moon Knight Age of Khonshu. Moon Knight defeats all of the Avengers, but instead of doing it the Batman way, through prep, It actually happens through a lot of plot-induced stupidity, things that really shouldn't have happened to begin with. He goes on a quest to get all of the powers of former or current Avengers members, and the reason behind all of this is that Khonshu believes that Mephisto is going to do some crazy things that will destroy the world, and he feels that his avatar, that being Mark Spector, needs to accumulate a lot of power to defeat him. And one thing that I really hate about this is that it completely made Khonshu real. Something that I loved about previous Moon Knight runs is that they kept it very ambiguous. You didn't know if Khonshu was real or it was not. There was a lot of hints and clues that made it so that it could sway either way. This made it 100% real. So one cool factor about Moon Knight was immediately taken off the table. Thankfully, Jed MacKay was able to work around it and make it work, so kudos to him. For the most part, you only need one good writer to fix the previous mistakes of others, but in this story, Moon Knight was under something called a supermoon, and that is real, feel free to search it up, and under this moon, he is at his most powerful, and on top of that, Khonshu gave him certain onks so that he's able to steal the powers of others, and this is where it gets into complete fan fiction stuff. The first couple people he went after was Iron Fist, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and Thor. What he did is that he did something called the Fist of Khonshu technique. I don't know how you would explain it, but Iron Fist is one of the best martial artists of all time. Moon Knight is not even close to being at that level, and he managed, through the supermoon, to get better martial arts abilities to beat Iron Fist in a 1v1 quite readily and easily. Then he took his chi abilities with his Ankh. Second person, Doctor Strange. He just dropped a bunch of Khonshu's mummies on his head so that he would be surrounded, and then Moon Knight punched him with the Ankh and took all of his abilities, essentially becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. He had all of his magic. If it was that easy to defeat Doctor Strange, literally anybody could do it. You just need a distraction and a magic thing on your fist to punch him in the face. Are we actually serious? Then he defeats Robbie Reyes and takes his car, making him now the Spirit of Vengeance. Jason Aaron, if you didn't know, Robbie Reyes doesn't have a Spirit of Vengeance. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm gonna stop just because you're making absolute Superman and it's good. You have a way out from my wrath. On top of that, he defeats Thor in the most disrespectful way possible that doesn't even make sense. So he chucks Mjolnir at his face and he stops it with his hands. It seems like telekinesis, but no. Moon Knight, thanks to the supermoon, has geokinesis, which, if you don't know, is control over the earth. And Thor is like, how could this be? It is literally impossible. And then Moon Knight's like, I can control anything that is moon rock. And your hammer, coming from the moon, is moon rock. And he starts hitting him back and forth with the hammer, beating him up and getting 2 orbiting moons and crushing it on Thor. That in and of itself shouldn't take him out, but it did. And retconning Mjolnir to only be Moonrock instead of Uru is complete and utter disrespect. Thor fans, come get this man, bro. Jason Aaron, you wrote a generational Thor run. 2 of them, by the way, back to back. And then you do this to the brother. Are we good? What did Thor do to you? On top of that, you have to remember his entire purpose was to defeat Mephisto. So he used all of these powers, put all of the onks on Mjolnir, and send it straight into Mephisto. And he kills him in one shot. All of the people in this book are either dumb or so powered down that you forget why they were a threat in the first place. How do you even save the day if one guy in a moon suit is beating you with no trouble? And to stop myself from going any further, because I'm going to have an aneurysm if I continue this, one last thing is when Moon Knight finally broke free from Khonshu and he's like, you know what? I don't mess with Khonshu anymore. I want him out. The Phoenix Force just randomly appeared and gave him powers. Powers strong enough to one-shot Khonshu. This is literally Webtoon, and calling it a Webtoon is disrespectful to the name of Webtoon. That's how bad this is. Any single Moon Knight fan who complains about Batman having plot armor, I am going to slap you so hard, but it will be from brotherly love, because I too am a Moon Knight fan. I just had to get this off my chest. This story has been eating away at my core ever since I read it 2 weeks ago. I just skipped straight to Jed MacKay. I knew this run was horrible. but I had to be a completionist and go back and finish it. I'm having voice cracks. Please somebody send me some water, some emergency aid, some mental health help, so that I don't have to remember the storyline, please. One character that gets away with plot armor just because he can break the fourth wall is Deadpool. Now, Deadpool as a character, I do like him a lot, mainly more so in the past, like the Uncanny X-Force era, you know, Rick Reminder. That was probably the era I love the most out of recent memory. The recent stuff is kind of mid, there's nothing really wrong with it, but that is not what this video is about. I'm not trying to break down Deadpool's character, I'm trying to talk about plot armor. And there is no other story filled with more plot armor than Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. It is an alternate take on the Marvel Universe, yet every single time I see any versus battles with Deadpool, all of the comments always talk about Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, as if that has any effect on canon battles. None of that makes sense, and I'm gonna go down the list of the people he killed, and the way that he kills them is either generic or half-hearted in creativity. Nothing about it makes you think, oh, this is such a brilliant plan. It makes sense how he was able to kill them. It's so creative. It's so whatever. It plays upon their weaknesses. All of that stuff is not to be seen, especially in the first one, and that's the only one I've read. Let me know in the comments down below if any of the future installments of the Kills the Marvel Universe with Deadpool is more creative and just a better book, but let's get to it. In the first issue, he kills the Fantastic Four. He melts Mr. Fantastic, he like crushes the Thing into rubble off screen, he decapitates the Human Torch with a katana and stabs Susan Storm in the back with a katana. Wow, if that was the way you could kill these characters, Human Torch and Invisible Woman, if they were mutants, I would say they would be Omega level. The Thing, he's consistently able to go toe-to-toe with the Savage Hulk. Mr. Fantastic, his brain, he's the smartest man in the Marvel Universe. Plus his stretchy abilities are very underrated. There's no way they would be taken out this easily. But let's continue. One really egregious moment was Spider-Man getting shot in the head. The man who is known to dodge gunfire with the spider sense got his head blown off. Let's just sit with that for a moment, okay? Let's all meditate, close our eyes, and take 5 seconds. So garbage, bro. Either way. Iron Man, Captain America, Hawkeye, Spider-Woman, Miss Marvel, Ant-Man, Jarvis, Hank Pym, all of those characters died from a secret bomb. Now, while all of that is interesting, specifically for the fact that we never seen a situation, at least at that moment in time, where somebody that we know who is very much inside the systems of characters like the Avengers because they are seen to be an ally, puts an explosive of that caliber in the building. The stupid part about it is that all of these characters have either sensory abilities or abilities to survive. Miss Marvel, she has cosmic awareness and she's incredibly durable. Iron Man, yes, he might not have his helmet on, but he can put it back really quickly, and if not, he has force fields attached to his suit to protect him. Captain America, literally a shield. And I forgot to say that Iron Man's suit is consistently attached to the recording systems of the buildings that he's in, or they can just scan. They're consistently scanning the environment. His suits sometimes has a pseudo spider sense. There's no way for this guy to be caught off guard. Captain America, he should be able to hear the tick of a bomb even through walls. Thor trying to recall his hammer, he didn't notice that Deadpool put Pym particles on it and it turned giant and it crushed Thor. If that's all it took for Thor to get cooked, why hasn't nobody of the magic variety, why hasn't Loki done that if it was that easy? It should be enchanted to the point that science cannot meddle with its structure. Only somebody with like reality warping should be able to do that in the first place. Bruce Banner, he got decapitated with 2 katanas. If you didn't know, when Bruce dies, the Hulk will come out to resurrect him. If not right away, in the nighttime, Hulk decides to come out and play. So it makes the entire storyline by issue 2 feel completely disheartening. If we go to issue 3, a lot of villains like Venom, like Goblin, were killed off panel. Doctor Strange was stabbed in the chest. How? His actions lead to characters like Daredevil, Kingpin, Falcon, Bullseye, Shang-Chi, Nick Fury, all of them to commit suicide through a suicide pact. Deadpool is not that guy to get these characters to end up doing that. They would be fighting no matter what. Even if something was there, which, you know, this does happen, if there was something there making them do it, you're telling me nobody has the willpower to break out of it? We've seen feats of them doing it, or even having Nick Fury have an LMD in his place. And furthermore, to make it even worse, he ends up killing people like Galactus, Silver Surfer, Thanos, Gladiator, Nova, all of the big heavy hitters in their playground. If we're gonna talk trash about the Batman Who Laughs, throw that same shade to Deadpool in this universe, because all he does is kill the big players off screen, just like the Batman Who Laughs. They are two threads literally in the same cloth. They are bound together under the same narrative structure. What is the difference between these two characters other than one is more funny than the other, and that the entire idea is Deadpool going insane, and it would be cool to see that, and him going out of the story to kill his own writers? Like, yeah, that's kind of cool, but it gets to the point where it feels like, is this a parody? It kind of is supposed to be like that, but at least have some creativity. Most of it feels so half-hearted and boring. At least be like a slasher killer movie where a lot of the deaths are creative. Nothing there is something that I haven't seen another villain try to pull off on these characters. Instead, due to plot, it actually works out and succeeds on them for some reason, even though it failed multiple times in the past. Frank. Can I call you Frank? Okay. I caught you. You're done. This one moment is such a glaze fest of Punisher. It's honestly disheartening. I want to throw up reading this because there is no way in heck, see what I did there, that you would be able to defeat the Spirit of Vengeance Ghost Rider with no augmentations. Granted, he was trying to get a weapon, and you might be asking, before we get too far into this, how would he be able to fight Ghost Rider? Well, he went to this angel called Zadkiel, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, and he had this sword. And apparently this is Mephisto's blade. It could be used to cleave the Spirit of Vengeance Zarathos from the host, right? Making Johnny Blaze a normal man. And you could see, this angel, he had his hand hovering over the blade, but somehow, because of aura, and because the writers wanted him to do it, he speed blitzed him, took the sword, and cut him up. He packed him up in a millisecond. Are you Dante from Devil May Cry? You should not be allowed to do this. How are you faster than an angel? But I digress. Let's move on to the Ghost Rider fight. And a lot of crazy things happen in this that will make any Ghost Rider fan livid. So what we see here, he does a little bit of a dodge roll, right? Ghost Rider is on his BS, being like, penance will not be stopped. We've seen penance stopped way more often than not. It's actually getting very uncomfortable at this point, but let's continue. He has this man pressed against the wall, and out of nowhere, he pulls out this dagger by Elsa Bloodstone and carves up the side of his head, but it doesn't completely work. Then he pulls out his guns that he got off of eBay, which is kind of funny. And they're from Carter Slade. They're spirit guns in a way. And it didn't do anything to him again. So he started running after the blade, and he had to jump out of the way, and eventually he got caught with the chains. He tried to throw his sword at his skull, but he caught that too, and he's like, you know what, Punisher, I'm gonna punish you. I'm gonna do what your name suggests. What will you be able to do against the penance there? Your regret, all of that. You will feel it in its full force. And then he's like, I regret nothing, and it didn't work on him. This is the point in time in modern comics, I'm pretty sure. Tell me down below if you know any other moments in recent memory that's not, of course, like Galactus and, you know, whatever. This was the moment in recent memory that I realized the penance stare fell off, because in the past, it doesn't matter what you felt, all of your sins will be reflected back at you 100 times over, okay? Your soul is gone. This is an instant kill on the guilty, especially somebody like the Punisher, who's probably killed people for jaywalking and maybe injuring an old lady, which, granted, that's a bad thing to do, but killing them is probably even worse. He has a lot of red in his ledger, especially if you look at all the stuff that he did in war, my guy. You do a lot of shady stuff overseas, and Punisher walked away from that. And then he started throwing the sword all over the place. Ghost Rider blocked it, and then, out of nowhere, he He took Ghost Rider's own chain, wrapped it around his neck, choked him out, pulled him closer, and knocked him out. What are we doing, brother? This is not the way. Mandalorian, come in here and fix the script, because this is hurting my soul. When I read this comic, I was feeling what the penance stare should have done to this man's entire figure. Ghost Rider, as a character, he is an 100-ton plus. I've seen him take down entire buildings with the whip of his chain. We've seen this guy survive hits from the Hulk. He's able to use Hellfire that could damage some of the strongest Hellords in all of Marvel Comics. He can throw motorcycles and speeding cars with one hand with little effort, but we see him getting rocked by Frank Castle the Punisher. This really is hell, huh? I watched the Thunderbolts again recently, so who do you think I might have on the mind? Sentry. Now, Sentry, the moment I'm going to be talking about is his battle with the Molecule Man. And the reason why this moment just kinda sucks is that it is pure Sentry glaze, because there is nothing, we have never seen a moment where he's anywhere comparable to what the Molecule Man could do. Yes, in this point in time, he was weakened because of his instability, but it's important to note that Sentry won this fair and square, and it was his moment to aura farm and act like everything that just happened was light work. And what makes this really crazy to me is if we look at Owen Reese's entire spreadsheet, yes, I pulled out his government name, we will see that he was able to contend with and stalemate a pre-retcon Beyonder. And if you know anything about pre-retcon Beyonder, that man could do anything. His matter manipulation and reality warping were so high that people like Uatu the Watcher, or any sort of Watcher there is, I've seen a moment like this where they begged him to fight against the Beyonder because he's the only person that people are confident enough to square up with people of this magnitude. Galactus believes that he could just snap his fingers and destroy him in an instant. He could glance at Galactus and with a thought, he would be gone. Galactus believes this. It's not like Molecule Man is doing this to self-glaze. Galactus said this out of his own mouth. He had an entire small multiverse that he created in a tiny box. We have never seen Sentry pull off anything of this magnitude, not even close, and the worst part about all of this is that we've seen Sentry get beat up by people lesser than Owen. We've seen him get bodied by Thor quite easily. We've seen him get bodied by Blue Marvel quite easily. We've seen a lot of other characters use a bunch of precautionary measures and like prep time tactics to put him on the back foot. We've seen Null rip this man in half with no problem whatsoever, and this man is still dead. We've seen him get outplayed by people like the Punisher. Granted, he wasn't trying to kill him. I guess that has something to do with intelligence rather than power, but you get the point here. There shouldn't have been a chance in hell that he would be able to disrupt and get rid of the Molecule Man like he was fodder. That just doesn't make any sense. From a power perspective, we know where Sentry lies. And from a fodder perspective, from the people who dunked on him, we know that he's not at that level. Brian Michael Bendis, get off a Sentry. I know you tried to play him up and bring him into the light as one of Marvel's biggest characters, but you did the most damage to him. A lot of the reason why people don't like Sentry isn't because of Paul Jenkins, it's because of what he did on the power scaling perspective to make Sentry look way better than he should, and then for other writers to knock him down a peg to show Sentry where he really lies in the entire Marvel hierarchy. He's not that guy. If we're going to compare their battles with Galactus or their statements and feats, he was able to stalemate Galactus. No more, no less. Does that seem like the same guy who could fight Molecule Man, the same guy who Galactus fears? Hell no, but that is just my take. Hey, anybody there? Yeah, there's somebody. You guys hear me? Okay, you guys made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. I did say in the beginning that I will talk about some examples of plot armor that I do like, but the first example being Squirrel Girl, because they know 100% that everything that she does is a parody. She is, for all intents and purposes, a goofy character who wasn't supposed to survive her first appearance. Her fight streak might be one of the best uncontended fight streaks in all of Marvel Comics. If we look at her abilities and how higher intelligence looks at her, they think that she is a low-level threat. She can only lift about, I don't know, 800 to like maybe 15 tons at max. But, dear viewer, you have to remember that her codename is the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. You know how we have like the amazing Spider-Man, the invincible Iron Man, the mighty Thor? Her tagline is unbeatable because while she might lose the first round, she will get her get back. The second round, she will use her wits and her squirrels to make sure that the villains make another path in life, to make sure that they never cross her ever again. It's just funny because they know it's complete plot armor, but it's what makes her stories literally comedy gold. If we go over a list of characters that she's beaten, let's start off at the bottom and make our way to the top. We got some of the human Avengers, right? We got Hawkeye, we got Spider-Man, we got Captain America, Sam Wilson, Black Widow, Flash Thompson, Venom, Deadpool, Wolverine, Kraven the Hunter. A lot of these guys are big threats, and they are for the most part higher than her in the threat level scale by like S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. But then we go on to bigger threats that take whole teams to defeat, and that's when you know, yeah, she might be that girl. She's taken on Murdock, Giganto, Mandarin, Doctor Doom, hello? Terrax, who is a herald of Galactus, Fin Fang Foom, Baron Mordo, Korvac. Who else? We got Kang the Conqueror, Magneto. These are big, heavy hitters. I'm not talking about no names. These guys are front and center as the main antagonist for whole movies and books. Ego the Living Planet, Thanos, even the one below all, nobody is safe from Squirrel Girl's wrath. All she gotta do is use her wits and smother them with squirrels, make them bite their neck, even their corporeal forms that don't even exist, and she will win the day. She stops entire invasions by herself just because she's like that. I don't even know how this is possible, but what I do know is that every single time I read a Squirrel Girl comic, I'm having fun personally, because they don't take themselves too seriously. That's what I don't like about all these other moments, is that they make it seem like these characters are doing all of these things on their own volition, on their own power, even though there is no precedence for that to be the case. The next character I want to talk about, who this is entirely linked to because it's literally one of their powers, is John Constantine, and the ability is called the Synchronicity Wave. And what I really like about this is that DC and Vertigo, of course DC and Vertigo being the same thing, a lot of people have this misconception that DC bought Vertigo. No, DC made Vertigo. The Gunpowder was when Swamp Thing was written by Alan Moore. But anyways, the lore behind this and what makes it so fun to read Constantine comics and all the crazy hijinks and things that he gets himself into, and seeing him come out of it, is because of this ability, and the only way that he has it is because he's a part of a bloodline that has the potential to become a laughing magician. Now, laughing magicians are, if I'm going to give you the rundown of what this idea is, in the past, they were people who would laugh in the face of gods and demons who try to affect their destiny, or the destiny of others, or try to do harmful things onto whoever and whatever, or even their own people. Constantine is one of these people. The Constantine, actually, that's how you pronounce it, Constantine. That entire bloodline has the potential to become a laughing magician, and because of that, they could use the Synchronicity Wave of Traveling. To read an excerpt so you know what this ability is, it's like this. He's riding the Synchronicity Freeway, and so everything just falls into place. Time, movement, even distance, just sit up and beg for him. You're having an adventure, kiddo. If you survive, it'll be fun. So the idea is that he makes his own luck, and the entire trajectory of a battle, let's say, can be changed to be in his favor. If you look at very, I guess, minuscule moments, you will see the Synchronicity Wave when he beats people in poker, when he wins 6 games in a row of bingo. That is him making his own luck and bending the rules of probability. Another moment goes just like this. So it would seem you walk the Synchronicity Highway, dancing between the raindrops. Raindrops can't touch him if he doesn't want it to. Appearing where you are needed, always in the right place at the right time. But has it never occurred to you to ask the question why? And he's like, never been one to look a gift horse in the mouth. But still, just lately, I don't know, ever since I've tried to get my stuff back together, it feels like somebody's trying to steer me back into the fog. Don't you suppose you'd know anything about that, would you? And he's like, I cannot see, there is a shadow about you. And he's like, yeah, I know, and that's something else that bothers me. But I'm about to tap into a power source of me own, and then I'll be able to see how I really fit into the grand scheme of things. You are playing with fire, Constantine. Yeah, well, I needed a light. What a fire line. On top of that, there's a moment, I'm pretty sure in Brian Azzarello's run, where he steps in front of a car and the car just swerves away. He steps in front of a train and it ends up derailing somehow. When he was on a train, he needed to be at this place at the right time, so the train actually sped up without him even knowing so that he got there on time. But even with all of this, he's not untouchable, he's not all invincible. That's what I really like. While this is a plot armor ability, it doesn't make everything sunshine and rainbows. If you know anything about Constantine, at the end of his stories, it's very shallow, dour, and just sad. We know that Constantine is his own worst enemy. He's going to do something to mess up that turns the entire situation onto its head. If not that, there is going to be some sort of demon or summoning or some sort of deal at play to ruin his life. And then he's going to go back to smoking, alcohol, and he's going to relive his past, like the stuff at Newcastle. All of that stuff, all that negative emotion and things that he has to experience on an emotional level makes it so that all the physical stuff he doesn't experience kind of balances out. And that's what I really loved about Vertigo Constantine DC, and why they really need to bring it back. I am so grateful that they're bringing back Vertigo either this year or next year, and they have Dennis Camp making a book, say less. But yeah guys, either way, let me know down in the comments down below, what is your favorite, or I guess your most hated plot armor moment. Let me know both of them in the comments down below. Why not? Don't limit yourselves. But yeah, remember to subscribe, like, turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. And yeah, see you all later. Take care. Deuces. Oh, and this is a picture of Daredevil beating Ultron with a wooden stick. He's completely made out of adamantium, by the way. Yeah.